you. Hi, everyone. It's Artie from Human Chapters. I'll tell you a little bit about human chapters. Humans are living narratives with a past, present, and future. These narratives constitute of a number of chapters across a lifespan. The aim of these conversations is to highlight a chapter of the narrative and unpack its connections to other chapters. I don't care whether people are natural storytellers, but I truly do believe each one of us has a worthy story to tell. In acknowledgement to country, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay respect to their tribal elders, past and present and emerging. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. And today, our human chapter is Praveen. And Praveen's chapter is making a difference in the lives of people in the slums. And I'll pass it on to Praveen to introduce himself. Go for it.
Hi everyone, it's a real pleasure to be here today. My name is Praveen Chauhan. I live in Nairobi, Kenya, and I am a civil engineer by profession and also a pranic healer. And I have a lot of various things that make me so passionate about helping people here in Nairobi, especially in the slums. And so today it's all about how we make a difference in the lives of people who live in the slums by doing feeding projects. So thank you.
Beautiful. Praveen, take us through your journey. When did you come up with this idea, or what sparked the idea of wanting to help people in the slums?
Wow. Well, Arti, I had always been very passionate whenever driving in the streets of Nairobi, and in when you're in traffic, you'd have street children coming at the door of the car and begging, and I always felt that how can we change this, or how do we make a difference into these children's lives. And 99% of the time what happens on the highways of Nairobi are people would have their windows open, but immediately they stop at a roundabout or in traffic, and they see the street children coming over, they will close the window, not realizing that the street children are human beings. They have a heart, they have feelings, and nobody really acknowledges them, or nobody even makes a point of talking to them. So that was my first sort of a heads up, that what would happen if we were to at least say a hi, hello to them. Just in Swahili, if you tell them sasa mambo, and you'll find the face lighting up because somebody has talked to them. And that is how it all started. And I have always been very, very passionate about helping people, the less fortunate, because life has its ups and downs. And when we are having problems in life, be it in health problems or be it business problems, then sometimes what happens is that you get to find out that when you have issues, nobody is there to help you, or very few people are there to help you. And what happens is that when we have that psychology, we have our family, we have our friends who will help us to come out of it. But I started saying that what really happens to somebody in the slum who is an orphan, or who has a single parent and he doesn't have anyone to talk to, then what would he be doing? And so the journey started like that. We are a group of, like I said, I'm also a pranic healer. So a group of friends in 2015 decided that let's do a feeding program. Yeah. So on 14th of February, Valentine's Day, we said that let's start off in an area in Parklands, where we started feeding about 100 children with a hot meal. So we were a group of about 5 people, and we said that let's start off. Let's do a hot meal. So one of our friends who runs a hotel said, "Okay, I'll give you 100 packed meals, and you can be feeding them." So very soon we started. Someone would give us some 100 mandazis, somebody would give us 100 bananas, and of course we always had the hot meal with us. So very soon, it started off was first with about 10, 20 children.
Mm.
And in about a year or so, we were feeding almost 120 people.
Mm.
Every Thursday in the evening at 5 p.m., we would gather up at a certain place, which is called the Popin Center in Parklands. And it was an open area. So they would sit, line up, we would do a prayer, and we would start off by feeding them. So that's how it all started. And we said that how do we now make a difference? So very soon, people would, these children would come up or they would come with their parent. And we started off by saying that, fine, let's help them out. Let's see what else value addition we can do.
Mm.
So slowly we took some children into our care, and we provided their education, sponsored their school fees, and had almost 5 children in school,
Yeah.
so that they would now have their education taken care of, their at least their primary education. And so that's how it all started. And we continued for 3 4 years, but then as is natural, friends now started having their own challenges. Some decided to travel abroad, some had their own work issues or family problems, so they couldn't give time to this. So finally it was just me and another friend, and there were just two of us. So it was becoming quite hectic, from work, being there, but we kept moving on.
Yeah.
And thereafter, everything was still, we were doing about 120, 150 children.
Yeah.
And we were continuing feeding them and trying to help out wherever possible. And slowly, we were continuing until it reached a point that the first case of COVID came into Kenya in March 2021.
Yeah.
And that was like the nail in the coffin, because the government announced no gatherings, nobody is to have any meeting whatsoever more than one or two people. And, a lot of strict regulations have started happening for the country. And so we had to stop. And when this happened, the feeding program completely came to a standstill. We couldn't do anything. And so we just said, okay, now let's just wait. So every time I would pass by in High Ridge, in Parklands, the children would know me. They will ask me, Praveen, what happened to the food? We are hungry. What can give us food? But I told them, let COVID pass, and then we will see. But deep inside my heart, I would always feel, now what will he do in the evening today, because he doesn't have anything to eat.
Yeah.
And it was really becoming, I really felt bad about it.
Mm.
So 2 3 months go, and then around June July, the government brought down the restrictions a bit. And they were a bit more comfortable in allowing gatherings and all.
Yeah.
So we wanted to start again, but then now it was a bit difficult, because my other friend also was now having her own things that she wanted to do. She was expanding her business, and she was more committed. So it was all by me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said that fine, let us now, because I still wanted to do the feeding programs. So I approached a friend in Kibera, and I asked him that if we were to do a feeding program, if we do a hot meal, would you be able to gather the kids, or would you be able to have a place where we can feed them?
Mm-hmm.
And he is a friend who also is very, very passionate about this. So he absolutely jumped on the idea. And we started our feeding program first in the Kibera slums,
Yeah.
where we started with, I told him, how many children are you able to bring on board? So he said, I can start with about 150,
Mm.
200. So I said, that's perfect. Let us start off.
Yeah.
So we in around June, July, we started and said, let us start our feeding. Now, when we started off, of course, in Kibera, it's a huge slum area. So having to meet everyone and giving food to everyone was not possible, of course. And being a large slum, there was a lot of areas, a lot of pockets where people were very, very needy. So we said that fine, let's increase the food. So I started approaching a few friends.
Mhm.
I told them, look, can you provide the ration, even if we are feeding just beans and rice.
Yeah.
At least if you could provide the ration, of course I would chip in whatever I could, and then ask the friends. So slowly by slowly, so many of the friends started saying, okay, we'll give you, can you give the money? So I told them, no, look, I don't want to keep money. What I want is, perhaps you could pay the ration store. I
Mm.
will pick the beans, I'll pick the rice, I'll
Yeah.
organize for the cooking. And that's how it all started off. So we said that what else can we do? So incidentally, just before COVID started, there were a lot of programs. We had approached various institutions, various companies. So we used to find that during just before COVID, like that was in 2019,
Yeah.
we had we would approach some temples. They would have programs on Saturdays. Then they would have a dinner, and sometimes the food would remain. So I would go and approach the temple and tell them, look, can you give us this food?
Yeah.
And we would give it in the slum. Or we would go to a certain industry, and maybe an industry making meal juices, or an industry that makes biscuits,
Yeah.
and we tell them, can you kids, so we can do this feeding. So that was before COVID. So now when this Kibera feeding started now in last year in around June, July,
Yeah.
we slowly by slowly now had these companies or somebody bringing in the biscuits and things like that. So with the hot meal, we would now give them biscuits, give them bananas.
Mhm.
So there was another initiative which also was doing, what would happen is a lot of farmers were getting affected by their businesses, and
Yeah.
they were not having their sales.
Correct.
So what was happening was that the sale was happening,
Yeah.
and they would not be able to do they would not be able to sell their vegetables. So
Mm.
there was an initiative which would buy these vegetables and then give it to me, and so we would now get um, these spinaches, sukuma wikis. So we would gather them and now I would give them, so that they would now start giving the families in the slum. So cooking became a bit difficult. So they would give, maybe, if we get 50 cabbages, 100 sukumas, 100 spinaches. So we
Mm.
would gather about 10 different people in different areas and give them 5 cabbages, 10 sukuma, and like that. So they would go and cook at their home.
Yeah.
Now, this started happening slowly by slowly. We said from Kibera, we moved to another area. We started talking to, when I was doing this, I found out that we had so many people in Nairobi doing their own different things, that they wanted to help the people in Nairobi. So now that networking started, and I came up with a lady in Soweto who also wanted to help the children to feed. So from Kibera, we had another program now in Soweto, in the
Okay.
Soweto slum,
Sure.
where we would now start feeding over there also. Now, slowly by slowly, what really took off, or what was amazing, was that when I was doing this, I started to put it on Facebook. I started to put it on Instagram,
Mm.
that this week we had this much feeding done, like that. And people started approaching that, how can we help? So we had a lot of friends coming aboard, saying that, look, I'll give you the unga, I'll give you the beans, I'll give you the green grams, I'll give you the rice. And we would move and continue gathering all this. And then I approached one of the temples in South Sea. There's a friend of mine who was working there. I mean, not working really, but he was in the managing committee.
Sure.
So he saw a post of mine, and there was a day he called me up,
Yeah.
and he says, Praveen, do you remember me? And the voice sounded familiar, but I wasn't sure who it was.
Yeah.
And then it's like we had been out of touch for almost 3-4 years. And I'm like, wow, oh, it's nice to hear from you. And he said, yeah, I've seen your post, and how can we work together?
Mm.
So I went and met him, and he's like, Praveen, what we will do is you bring the ration, we will do the cooking.
Yeah.
And that opened up a wider outreach because we had the ration, we had the veggies, we had the food.
Yeah.
Only thing was how to cook it. So we started with 500 kids in Kibera,
Yeah.
500 in Soweto, and we started feeding 100 kids on Fridays with a hot meal that was cooked at the Gurudwara in South Sea.
Right.
So they the ration, they
Yeah.
would do the cooking, and then we would supply. Now, what I came to find out was that sometimes what happens is that when we do this too, my friend in Soweto, my friend in Kibera was good that they would be taking their own trouble also to pitch in.
Yeah.
But when this thing started happening, I guess I started getting a lot of inquiries that people wanted to do the feeding, and somehow I wasn't comfortable because I felt there were some who wanted to take advantage, or some just wanted to make a name. And to me, this is purely for humanity. I would not want to do it for an exterior purpose or anything.
Yeah.
So a couple of guys who approached me, I told them, okay, can you do this? Can you arrange the sufurias? Can you arrange the plates and all that? Then I'll arrange the food.
Yeah.
So it has to be a two-way, an equal partnership kind of thing, not everything for me to do. And you just come and pick and feed, and that's it. So that is how then I came to realize that, those ones who are not serious, they
Yeah.
would say, oh, we can't do that. I don't have this. I don't have that. And I say, look, I can't give you the food. I can't organize everything. I can't deliver it. And even to expect you to feed the people, you still say that we would need this amount of money to feed and for logistics and all that. So I said, no, that's not possible. This has to be an equal partnership. If you are working with me, you need to do a few things. I will do my part.
Absolutely.
And when this happened, now I started getting the serious people who would really come on board. And so very soon we now started having from Kibera and Soweto now. So my friend in Soweto, one day I visited the program, and I used to give her the food. She would come and collect it, and she would do it at the Soweto hall.
Yeah.
And one day I came and I saw it. It was like 2-3 months I was giving her the food, but I'd never visited. So
Okay.
when I went and visited, I saw that she had all the logistics in place. She had the volunteers, people who would help to serve out the food, people who would help to ensure social distancing, people who would help to ensure the food is not wasted, and
Yeah.
like that. And all of these were entirely volunteers. She wasn't paying anyone.
Yeah.
So, and she had all the logistics in place. So I was quite impressed, and I told her, why don't we do another feeding?
Mm.
And so we said yes, that can work. And so we started an uji feeding in the mornings
Okay.
in Soweto.
Yeah.
So now we had Friday hot meal, and then we did a Tuesday uji feeding.
Yeah.
So we started off, and the first uji feeding that we did, we had an overwhelming bunch of kids, 500 of them coming over there for a cup of uji.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was quite overwhelming, but we said no, we will do the uji because the children need it. And we started, and that now came out to the third program of uji feeding of 500 kids. So slowly, as things went on, we increased it to another Thursday, and
Okay.
again we did it in a different part of Soweto.
Yeah.
So now it became another 500 to 600 kids. So by the end of the year, we were, and this was, I mean, I hadn't even realized it, but even though it was COVID, even though we were taking care of all the social distancing aspect, taking care of all the government regulations, the government norms, even going to the extent of talking to the area chief that, look, we are doing this, we
Yeah.
will ensure that there is no problems, we will take care of the government directives and everything. But please, at least you are aware, so we wouldn't want to feel that we are not taking care and doing the social distancing part and all.
Yeah.
So that way we started getting the support of the local area chief. And very soon, by end of the year, by around December, we were doing 500 children in Kibera and 500 in Soweto.
Yeah.
Then in between, now we started off with Tuesday Uji feeding. So those were 500.
Yeah.
Then we had the Thursday Uji feeding. That was another 500. So we were at 2,000.
Yeah.
And then came another friend of mine. When he saw this, he said that, Praveen, I have a good outreach in the Mukuru Kwajenga slums. Would
Okay.
you be able to help us over there? So I said, no problem. Let me come and have a look.
Mhm.
So I went over there, checked it out. I used to know him, so I knew he was quite serious.
Yeah.
And so we said that let's go and have a look. Let's see how we are going to do the logistics.
Mhm.
Throughout a few logistic questions to him also, can you arrange the plates, the cups,
Yeah.
and and do the feeding. So for him, he was quite inventive. What he did was he told the children, "You bring the plates."
Yes. I like that.
We had the 100 plates or so, but in this case, he told the children, "Come with a plate, come
Yeah.
with a cup, and we will give you the food." So we were, and that way we increased our feeding. And in Mukuru Kwajenga, we did about 300 children, and so now we had all this happening, and slowly by slowly, as time went on, um, I had a lot of friends who would chip in, who
Yeah.
would now see my posts, because I would make it a point, not because not because I wanted to show what I was doing, but more so because people all over would understand that these are the problems that COVID has brought to the slum areas. And people don't have food,
Mm.
people were losing jobs, and so that was giving a lot of issues in the slums. So that was our fourth feeding program, and we now started targeting 300 people in Mukuru Kwajenga.
Yeah.
Then one fine day, another friend comes up and says, Praveen, you're doing this, so can we do another one? And in the CBD in town,
Yeah.
um, we have a lot of street children over there. So on the backside of a place called Kirinyaga Road, where there are a lot of street children, and just next to the Nairobi River, there's a lot of rubbish dumps and all that. So you would find a lot of children seated over there. So
Sure.
a friend of mine says that, look, I would be able to organize these kids. Can we do a feeding over there?
Yeah.
I said fine. So on Sundays now we started taking food over there,
Yeah.
and we targeted about we started off with about 50,
Yeah.
and now we are having almost close to about 200
Ah.
being fed in town. So the journey continued, and just last week now we now started off our I would say our fifth feeding program, which will now happen in Mathare, which
Okay.
we are targeting about 800 children over there. So all in all, by yesterday,
Yeah.
uh, like end of May, we will be having we were having about 2,700 children,
Oh my goodness. That is phenomenal.
2,700 children in various places being
Yeah.
fed,
Yeah.
and come next week we will now have an 800 children more. So every week we should be feeding close to about 3,500 children in various slums.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That is just so heartwarming and beautiful to hear that these children are getting at least one hot meal. a day. And Praveen, I actually wanted to ask you, say someone who isn't from Kenya is listening to this chapter, are you able to paint us a little bit of a picture of what you mean by street kids and what it is like in Nairobi and surrounds, with the slums and what's happening there for these kids, and why you're doing or having so many kids that you are feeding?
You see, Aarti, what happens is, um, what we don't realize is since COVID started,
Yeah.
people in the slum areas are losing jobs because they are working every day. You know what happens? These are casual laborers, and casual laborers most of the time are paid at the end of the day.
Mm.
So that $1 or $2 that they are getting is enough for them to have a meal the following day.
Yeah.
So if they work today and they are a single parent or they are parents with children,
Yeah.
they would have enough food for the next day.
Yeah.
Now, when COVID happened, so many industries had to close
Mm.
or torn down.
Yeah.
And when that happened, so many people in the informal settlement areas started losing their jobs. So it's not only the slums, but of course, in the ones even in the lower parts of Nairobi or in areas where there are informal settlements, people started losing their jobs because the industries didn't have jobs.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, what would start happening is that we would start hearing of cases of sexual gender based violence,
Yeah.
the husband hitting the wife. Then you'd start having cases of so many children not having eaten during the day,
Yeah.
or you would find somebody losing their job and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, of course, we can't help everyone,
Mm.
but whatever was possible was if you have your basic food taken care of,
Yeah.
then at least the other things can be handled. You see, if you have food for today, then how to get a job or how to get a job that will take you for a week or so,
Mm.
that can be managed. And what happens is for the adults, at least you would try something, you'll eat something. But what do you tell a child? I mean, if he or she is hungry, I mean, that's she needs food. And if she doesn't get, how do you expect? And the parents are helpless or like that. So I said that whatever outreach I can do,
Yeah.
I would help out. And that's how we say, let us target the children first, so that from the children now we would, of course, we don't refuse when we are doing the feeding programs. Even if an elderly person comes,
Mm.
or even if we find that he is quite a mature person and he has walked in, we don't say no, you'll not get your food. Anybody, when the feeding program happens, anybody who is in and around is most welcome to eat. So we would then start off with the smaller children
Mhm.
and then have the adults come in afterward.
Right.
And but everyone gets their food.
Beautiful. And Praveen, I wanted to ask you another question. Now, this is something you said at the very start of your chapter, and it was when you were driving in the streets of Nairobi and you used to come across street kids, many people rolled up their window, and perhaps due to fear of security, all of those kind of things. What made you, and you talked about human dignity, but why was it that you kept your window down? And have you had instances of fear sort of creep up at stages? Tell us about that.
Well, I'll tell you an incident, Arti. What happened was one day I was coming from industrial area from work,
Yeah.
and I, because of a lot of traffic on the highway, I took the inner roads,
Okay.
and I passed through an area called Majengo, and it is quite inside and trying to avoid the traffic, so I took that road. Now, what happened was, uh, at that time I had a driver. I was seated in the passenger seat, So somebody knocked on the back's window, and my window was halfway. So he knocked over there, and this guy in the front, I had my phone on my lap, and he snatched it
Yeah.
and went away, and
Yeah.
I lost my phone. So um, I don't, I don't really say that it's bad when people would roll up their windows, like the way you rightly said. It's a security thing you need to take care of.
Yeah.
But if you do like out of 100 people, maybe that's a one-off. And yes, it happens. You need to be careful in Nairobi. This kind of things, snatching of purses, phones,
Mm.
always happens. So even if you're working in an uptown area, if you're not careful, that can happen.
Yeah.
But thank God these days Nairobi is quite secure. In that way, the local government is doing quite a number of good things. So in the central business, in Westlands, the security is quite good.
Mm.
So 99% of the time you would not have those kind of things happening. But I'm sure even in Australia, in England, everywhere, those things do happen in America. So that those are things that do happen. So in Nairobi also it is there. But what really happens is that if when we were doing our fitting previously and interacting with these slum children, I came to realize that when you talk to them, they are really taken aback. They're
Yeah.
like, wow, somebody has talked to me. Most of the time they are brushed off.
Yeah.
So when you just greet them or just say a hi, they would now start looking. The first thing they will tell me is, give me food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And for the people who would be listening to this interview of ours, and the Kenyans, the first thing in Kiswahili they say patia chakula, and or patia shilingi kumi. That 10 shillings, yeah, which is just 10 US cents. So that is enough for them to at least buy something and eat. I mean, and that will take them for the day. So you can imagine for 10 US cents, what can you possibly get? Maybe a banana,
Mm.
and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we take for granted is something that they take, that this is the way of life. So if they've got a banana,
Mm.
that's good enough. And that is why I felt that on the streets sometimes, yes, you have to be careful. You need to maybe have the window three-quarter up the way and not fully open.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes even if you put your window down and talk in the traffic,
Yeah.
you will find that two, three of the kids might come up to your window, but they are not bad people. They are simply wanting something so that they can make their day, yeah, and have some food on the table for them.
Yeah. And speaking of striking up or engaging in conversation with these children, have you had opportunities through your feeding programs or even when you're in the car waiting in the traffic to actually have some different conversations with them? If so, what have these conversations been? And yeah, just to get a glimpse of what is it like, yeah, for them.
Well, I know some people might find it strange, but what I do is I would keep my window open, and most of the street children here, unfortunately, to come out of this kind of problems, is they sniff glue.
Yeah.
And what happens to that is, that when you sniff glue, the hunger comes down, so you don't get hungry.
Mm.
Okay, so we have had instances previously when we used to feed. Now, some of these children who are sniffing glue, when they get on Thursdays, when they were getting this decent meal,
Mm.
you would find they would actually immediately they have eaten, they will vomit it out because the body is not
Mm.
suited to that much food.
Yeah.
So now at this point of time, what would happen is when a child approaches me or a street child on the highway or something, of course, I can't stop in the middle of the highway, but there are some places whereby in traffic when you are there, he's always carrying that glue bottle. So I tell him, I'll not give you the 10 shillings or 20 shillings. Can you let me give you food? So, in Nairobi, what happens, there are people who are hawking on the roadside and they would be selling a banana or something. So I would call the lady, I'll tell her, give him 2 or 3 bananas, and here is the money. The very ironic thing is, because they want to sniff the glue, when you are gone, this child will tell the lady, take your banana back, give me the 20 shillings. So he can go and sniff the glue. Absolutely. So I would tell the lady, do not give that money to him. And make sure while I'm gone, he has eaten that banana. So, so of course, you are in traffic. You don't know whether that happened or not, but at least you have done your part and ensure that hopefully the lady would listen, not give him the money, and the child has got something to eat. And sometimes if I'm in a place whereby at least I'm able to park on the side, we have so many in various places. You have small structures whereby on the roadside where they are cooking, so they would make just maybe chapati and beans or something, whereby they sell for 50 bob or like that. So the child, when he comes to me, he says, give me 10 bob. But I'll tell him, no, Pat, come, let me buy you food over here. Sure. So I would pay that 50 shillings or 100 shillings and make sure he has eaten, and continue with my journey. So that's how, he has gotten his meal. And I have at least ensured that he has got a decent meal while I'm on my way to my work. Yeah, that's gorgeous. And Praveen, you mentioned that you have always been, or you've been passionate about giving back to the community. Where has this always been the case for you, or is there a time in your childhood that you remember where this passion sort of sparked? Oh. Sorry, Aarti, I lost your voice. Oh, sorry. I think, I'm not sure what happened to the internet then. So what I wanted to ask was, you mentioned initially that you are passionate about giving back to the community. Where has this always been the case for you, or do you remember a single time where something happened and it sparked your interest in giving back to the community? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Oh, you're muted. Your picture was, the frame was stuck. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, let me ask again. Let's try. So I just wanted to know about your passion for giving back to the community. When you were young, did something happen, or where did that passion stem from? Well, that's very interesting, because what happened was, a couple of years ago, almost 8-10 years ago, we had a portion whereby we were helping, we had our own business, and the business during the multi-party elections and all that, we sort of came through a bad patch. Okay. And the businesses were really down, and took a few, I'm into the construction business, so some of the business was really bad. Some business, we didn't really do the right kind of quotation and like that, so went into a huge loss. And one of the reasons I came to find out was that, we always say that there is always that portion whereby, your friends, your true friends will stand with you even in the bad times. And who are just there for the sake of, and they will not be there when the times are bad. And I learned this the hard way when my business crumbled, and I had a lot of issues. And at that time, I had some of my friends who really stood by me,
Mm.
Um, some who I thought were friends, but the moment things started happening downwards, they just took off.
Sure.
And that's the time I realized that what is your purpose in life? What are you here for? I mean, everybody earns a living, you, me,
Yeah.
everyone. Forget the slum children. I mean, even people living in the slums, everyone. I mean, take anybody.
Mm.
You're born, you grow up, take your education, you work, take care of your family. If you are lucky enough, you'll make a house and maybe
Mm.
travel abroad, settle abroad. Or if you are here, maybe have a good flowing business and life goes on.
Mm.
That's it. So what are you really here for? And what I mean, you have taken birth here, and there must be something that God or the universe has brought you here for.
Mm.
Yes, you're doing your part. You're taking care of your children. You're taking care of your family. All that is there. Everybody does that. But what after that?
Mm.
I mean, do you really have a purpose in life? Or were you born here to really just do that and die off and that's it? And your name continues that yes, you are a good businessman or this, that, or maybe if you're a bad person, they'll say you are a bad person.
Mm.
And and that will move on. After a couple of years, you are forgotten, and that's it. So for me, I felt that no, when this thing happened in my business, I said, I don't want I don't want people telling me thank you. All
Mm.
these 3,500 children that we are feeding, I don't want a thank you from them. In fact, I don't even want any kind of appreciation
Mm.
in true sense of speaking. So I wouldn't want that ego in me to say if I have fed someone, he comes and says, "Oh, Praveen, you are great. Oh, Praveen, thank you. Oh, you are doing a wonderful job." Yes, when you're doing this, of course, it will automatically come. But
Mm.
don't take that to your head. I mean, don't let that ego strike you. What you need to do. I mean, what I would want is that I am helping without any sense of someone saying anything in return.
Mm.
I mean, if you are giving food to a person on the roadside who was begging and you bought him food, he doesn't know you. I don't even know him. Probably I'll not even see him again.
Yeah.
But if I brought that 50, I mean, $1 food for him
Yeah.
or 50 US cent food for him, and he has eaten.
Mm.
If nothing, at least his heart will say thank you, which I will not hear. But deep inside, somebody somewhere will say thanks with a good heart, and that I felt is the real purpose because he in his heart has really thanked you and given you that true blessing, which um, ordinarily we would not get.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, yes, in our culture we would greet our grandparents, they would bless us. Yes, that is there because we are their grandchildren, they will bless, and or if they are our parents, they will bless us. But that blessing is of course there, but this is the true blessing from a person who would never be able to appreciate you
Yeah.
because he doesn't know you. And that is the real feeling, that is the true feeling you'll be able to get. And I would urge anybody watching us today to just even try it out once.
Yeah.
Do something whereby help someone without expecting anything in return
Mm.
and see how a good feeling you would get in your heart by helping and just walking away. I mean, you would find that that blessing comes back to you 10 times. And right now, in spite of all those problems very many years ago, right now, I'm happy.
Mm.
I'm positive. Life, of course, has its ups and downs. But now you are strong enough to say, no matter what life brings on, you just say, bring it on. I'll handle it. So feeding is one part, but even in our true sense on day-to-day life,
Mm.
my business is growing now. I'm more happy. I'm more content, and at the end of the day, I am also trying to show the same thing to my children.
Sure.
I take them for the feeding as well.
Mm.
Let them also appreciate that whatever I am giving them, they shouldn't take it for granted.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's not getting that also. So they have now started appreciating this. Um, my wife is quite supportive of this because she is really, wherever possible, she would give ideas, she would help out.
Yeah.
If she has contact, she would tell someone. So, all in all, you have a happy and contented life whereby you're making a difference in someone else's without expecting anything. And the universe is giving you 100 times back.
Mm. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Thank you for openly sharing that with us, Praveen. Yeah, it's, sometimes it might not be as easy to share that part of it, where there is a rough patch. And I think, yeah, in everyone's life, as you said, we have our ups and downs, and to acknowledge the downs is, yeah, sometimes can be quite powerful to go through. The other question I had was the sustainability side of your feeding programs. What are you envisioning in terms of keeping it sustainable, or take us through that bit?
It's very funny. We started off with only one bale of flour,
Yeah,
which comes with 12 packets. That's 24 kilos.
yeah,
Right now, um, when I least expect it, somebody somewhere will say, Praveen, I'm sending you 100 kilos of rice. Or somebody will say, Praveen, I'm sending you 200 kilos of beans.
yeah,
Somebody will say, I have cooking fat. So it's very, very strange. I think God works in mysterious ways.
mm,
Um, touch wood right now, in terms of sustainability, one way or another, at least something somewhere does come up,
yeah,
and we keep on moving ahead and growing. We also get some donors who have now seen our work, so they would openly tell me, Praveen, whenever you are stuck, just give a call and we will send. So I try as much as possible not to deal with physical cash. We would ensure, of course, somebody if he's abroad, like there was an incident. I had one friend in Australia and one friend in UK.
yeah,
We met, we got in touch through Facebook again, I think almost after 12, 15 years. And one fine day, he just messaged me and says, Praveen, I'm seeing the work you're doing on Facebook. How can I send you some cash? Um, and you can use it in whatever way you feel is appropriate. So, yes, I mean, then of course the cash does come to me,
mm,
but as much as possible, we try and see that we get the food and the ration bought, and the person pays directly. So at least in terms of accountability,
mm,
we would not want anyone questioning that, we gave you 10,000 or $100, and how come whatever you spent is only $50? Where did the other 50 go?
yeah,
So we try and be as much, not a try, but we are 100% accountable
mhm,
that whatever money does come goes directly into this. Maybe I would say that, I don't take into account my time, my movement, my petrol.
yeah,
I mean, that if somebody has given, say, $500, then I would ensure that that 500 is spent fully for that.
yeah,
I don't count the fuel, the time, because that is my part of it. Of course, I do put in mine donation as well, but then these are the things, the day-to-day logistics of organizing all this, the phone calls, the people on ground,
right,
all that is there, and that of course is a cost,
mm,
which when you think deeply, it you might take it for granted, but when you accumulate it over a month or two, it becomes a huge cost. But that's where I come in. I put in my time, I put in my money to ensure that we are taking care of and these things keep on moving.
Absolutely, Praveen. And it's so important that you brought that up. I fully appreciate behind the scenes work because there is, I can only imagine with all of the programs, how much organizing, accountability, everything that goes with it. It's not, we're not just talking money, we're talking time, we're talking human resources, we're talking everything else, the networking side of things, and making sure that it's not just you that's accountable, but every person within your network is accountable as well. Yeah. So I totally appreciate that behind the scenes work. And Praveen, where do people find you if they want to give back or even just if they're curious about what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Sorry, just repeat that again.
Sorry, where do people find you or your information about your programs, if you know whether they want to give back or just curiosity gets the better of them? Yeah,
Okay, so I don't know, would it be the right platform to share my number?
we can, unless you wanted to, let's not make it that public, but do you have your Instagram handle that maybe you can send
Yes,
that to me? And yeah, and then
definitely. Yeah, so I mean, most of my work I post it on Facebook and Instagram.
sure.
So yes, then I can give that handle so that people can get in touch with me through that.
Yes.
And so that would be the easiest and most convenient way.
Yeah.
And of course, when we start talking to the donors, and then I would always share my contact numbers
Yes.
and move from there. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. And so to wrap up this conversation, what does a utopic world look like for you, Praveen?
I don't know, in this time and age, will we really have an utopic world, really? But um, I would want to feel that, you know, in times of COVID or even when there was no COVID,
Yeah.
talking negative things and doing negative things is very easy. I mean, it doesn't take any effort in that. But no matter how bad things in life are, but a person needs to let go and a person needs to remain 100% positive. Yeah. If you remain positive, if you give out the positivity from yourself, then trust me, 100% good things start happening back. And when everybody becomes positive and everybody looks at life in a positive manner, then no matter you, me, or anyone else, then the real utopia that we are thinking of on planet Earth can
Mm,
happen. Because then we are not thinking of how to, I will not be thinking how I will make Aarti fall.
mm,
I will be making sure how Aarti would grow more.
mm.
And to me, if she grows, I'm happy. So, in the same way, if I have friends here, if they are growing, I am happy. So, in that way, if we all felt and if we all spread out that positivity and say that we always look for the good thing in the other person,
Yeah.
then automatically everyone everywhere would start bringing in the positive vibrations, and you will have just good things happening, irrespective of whether it is business, irrespective of whether it's family matters, irrespective of whether you are helping someone. So all this happens, and um, that is how the real uh, utopia that you have talked of would happen.
Yeah. And it sounds like what you're saying is almost the notion of global empowerment and everyone trying to help people out whenever and wherever they can. Okay, so Praveen, before the final question, which is about the 3 to 5 key takeaways from your end, is there anything that you wanted to touch on that I didn't ask you? Any point?
Well, what I would say is that being on an I mean on this platform, what I would request is that we can make a lot of difference in the lives of uh, the less fortunate in Nairobi and even in Kenya,
Yeah.
because for me seated here in Nairobi, it is easier for me to do the immediate Nairobi environment. But then there are a lot of needy people all over Kenya,
Mm.
and if there is a way whereby we can people can help from all quarters of life, then we are in a position through our team and our network that we would be able to reach more people in Nairobi and then thereafter to various parts of the country. So yes, I mean, in terms of what, if people would want to reach out, we would really appreciate and see how best we are able to help.
Yeah.
But in this thing, the biggest thing learning I have had is it each and every day is a new learning for me, which really gives me all the motivation.
Yeah.
And instead of, I mean, as much as you'd want to help and help our feeding program increase, I would like to pose as a challenge to whoever watches this that can you, even if it's something small, make that difference wherever you are staying
Mm.
to somebody who would never be able to thank you, and see the contentment that you'll get in your heart.
Yeah. And it's so important. Like, it's not all about the money, or it's not, it might be time, it might be a skill service, or whatever it is within a person's capacity, um, that they can do.
Very true.
Beautiful. So, your final 3 to 5 key takeaways.
Now, when you say that, what do you mean? Something to advise the general public or what?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a bit of yeah, a bit of an advice recommendation. And I think one of them you have said it, which is do try to do something for someone else without
Yes.
any account. Um,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So what I mean, what I said was that's the main, I mean, that's the biggest takeaway. Do something for someone
yeah,
who would never be able to thank you back.
yeah,
And when that happens, automatically you would find the universe and God bringing that back tenfold to you. So you are having maybe a better, if you're a businessman, you're having better business. If you're working, you'll find
mm,
so many good things happening at your place of work. If you are a retired person, then just that contentment of helping someone, you would find that that is there. And another thing I would like to tell people is, we always say, what is your purpose in life? And sometimes this would be the best thing, because this gives the real true meaning of the essence of living life. And also the second thing I would say is, no matter how things tough they may seem in your life, believe me, there is somebody who is worse off than you, and you need to appreciate wherever you are. I
mm,
mean, we might be complaining right now that I didn't get a pizza for lunch,
mm,
but somebody didn't get even a meal yesterday.
mm,
So you are better off that you are eating something, maybe not a pizza, but you're eating something else. But at least you have food on your table. So always be appreciative of whatever you have. Another thing I would say is, as much as difficult as it may look, always remain positive, always be positive in life. And when that happens, you will find that automatically things in and around you also start becoming positive. and and it will be from the most or from the least expected. I mean, you will not even have imagined. You'll find maybe a better opportunity from work coming in, maybe a promotion. If you are in business, maybe a bigger order has come in. And you'd be like, how? And I just didn't expect this. But you see that whatever good you are doing for the others, the good that you do always comes back to you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Praveen, for taking the time to generously share about your chapter and yeah, answering all of those questions. And for anyone that's listening to this, please feel free to share it with your friends, your family, whoever you think may connect with it. And I will be sharing Praveen's Facebook and Instagram details. So if you do want to get in touch, by all means, go ahead. So thanks, guys. All right.
Thank you.
No worries.